In the previous section, what we did was ask the database for some information. So we'd say, like, give me all the data for a person called Fred, and all of that data was stored in the value result. But this time we're not asking for any data to come back. All we're doing is inserting or putting some data into the database. Nothing comes back. So I'm not asking for how old is he or what's his last name. So result this time doesn't contain any data. All it contains is sort of true or false, that the query was successful or the query was unsuccessful. Really, I should have used success. That would have made more sense. However, I tend to reuse code quite a lot, so I'm just going to keep it as result and just play around with the result. To me, it just makes it a little easier when I'm copying and pasting code from one file to another. I don't have to keep going through finding out what I've called the variable names. So I'm going to stick with result, and I've got to test it. So if it was successful and it managed to put the information into the database, then I want to know that. And there are times where it won't be able to put data into the database. In other words, there might be some duplicate values, or maybe if you've set some restrictions on age or something, it won't allow anything to be posted in, and your query will fail, and this is where you'll get to find out. So I'm going to do a little test to see what the value of result was. So if result, this is if it's true, okay, and obviously have an else clause for the case where it's false. So now I'm just testing to see if the query was successful or not. So if the query was successful, I just want to report that back. Because we're getting no data, we're still playing with JSON, but we're getting no data back. So all I need is a simple JSON line just to tell me that I was successful. So if I just paste that, I've copied this error message. I'm going to change this to success. So I now have got a successful result, and again change that from success because now we don't have an error. And the message, well, straightforward, the data was added to the database. And the reason why I'm doing this is because I'm using JSON, I'm sending JSON and reading JSON. I don't have to keep changing my code depending on what the value is that comes back. Again, if I failed, so if I copy that and paste that in there, so I've now got it's failed, I've got my error, the data has been rejected for some reason. The data was rejected. Again, there's a million and one reasons why it may be rejected. Generally it's out of bounds. You know, you've set a particular field to accept an integer and you've sent text, or you've got a limit, as I said, with age. You can't have anybody over 60 and you put somebody in with 70. The query's fine, the query works, but the database has rejected the data. So that's about it. We're getting towards the end now. We've managed to work out the query, we've sent the query, and we've read whether the query has been successful or it has failed.